guys, today we're going to be going on a tour of the Research Service Leadership Symposium, or RSLS, and we're going to be talking to each person about what they did and what interests them about the topic. Let's go. Hello, is it sir?
Yes.
Could you explain to me about the research that
Yes, so dating apps are increasing in popularity, so we wanted to try to find out if introverts or extroverts are more successful on them. And so we hypothesized that extroverts would be more successful than introverts because they have bigger social networks and they're more willing to put themselves out there. And so for participants, we had 71 participants. We had to include 16 of them, so it was actually 55. And then we used a three-part survey. The first part was the isolated personality inventory, and then we used relationship satisfaction questions. So we found that our hypothesis was not supported. There's no significant relationship between extroverts and dating apps and being more successful. However, we did find that there were, for all the variables like number of matches, the conversation, like considering up, they were all correlated with each other, which shows that our research was reliable. We also find that most people weren't satisfied with dating apps, and when asked what their goals were, these were open response and response questions. Most people chose more vague response rather than actual specific responses. And so, again, our hypothesis was not supported. And we suspect this is partially because we didn't do a very good job of deciding success and satisfaction. Again, over here, when we asked about satisfaction, we didn't specify what was meant by satisfaction, so that became confused. We were also worried that because dating history is a little bit more of a sensitive topic, people might not felt comfortable sharing that on our surface. And so in the future, we're looking to get better operational definitions and get a wider range of dating apps, and also make sure that people we get a good range of extroverts and introverts on our survey.
is that what you mentioned in the future directions part? Why did you choose this idea?
Originally, I was just curious about what the introverts and extroverts were like in just dating in general, but then we decided to go on dating apps because it's easier to quantify.
We're from the RadTech program, so we do X-rays. So we focused on X-ray related topics. So this one we're looking at autopsy, which is investigation after death, usually if something's criminal or suspicious. So we looked into using how they use CT scans now for autopsy instead of doing the traditional way of like physical examination or organ removal. Okay, so CT scan is basically hundreds and hundreds of X-rays, kind of 3D around your body. So they're using that now for autopsies, so post-mortem meaning after death. So we were looking into the benefits and the limitations of using that, why it's good, why it's maybe not as good as doing a physical autopsy. So we have a lot of different examples on how you can see, like for example, this was a stab wound to the chest, so this is a heart. You can see the stab wound, obviously, when they did organ removal, but you can also see it in CT. So this is the heart here, so this little part.
And you can see the liver up here. There's a gunshot wound that went all the way through, so you can see that the white, sometimes they highlight it with what they call like contrast, so you can show up brighter. And then this is hemorrhage. And then this is also a gunshot wound through the brain. So what happens when you do a CT is if there's any kind of metal in the brain, it's going to create this streaking. So it creates like an artifact, so they can kind of see like exact pinpoints of where the death was realized, and also where if there's any like metal fragments or any leftover knife or particles of the gun, the bullet.
CT is great because right here you only see one image, but you can look at it from different views. So from slices like horizontally or vertically, you can even 3D construct.
Yeah, so you can see like 3D models. You can also print 3D models of and seeing the whole anatomy and seeing points of entry and exit. So it really helps. It benefits people who, maybe they have religious beliefs that don't believe in doing just conventional autopsies, invasive procedures, and it really helps them to just be able to go through a CT scanner to be able to get results on their death.
Why did you guys choose to go to this topic?
We just thought post-mortem study is really interesting. Even though we're in the X-ray program, we go to our clinical sites and we do X-rays, but it's kind of uncommon, I think, to see post-mortem studies. That's usually done maybe at the coroner's office, but it is a route that we as X-ray techs can take. Yeah.
Both college and
Where do we go next?
Is anyone here? No,
We're gonna go this way. Let's go find someone. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about your research?
Sure. So our research looks at how the opiate epidemic affects the AIA population, so the Alaskan Native and American Native populations of California. And what we found is that these group of people, the AIA population, is very affected by the opiate epidemic, leading to very high cases of NAS, which is neonatal abstinence syndrome, which results when the mom has opiate usage during pregnancy and passes that on to their child. So then we explored the long-term effects of having neonatal abstinence syndrome on the child. And then we also looked at the current programs in place to help support this population with the opioid epidemic and helping support them with opioid usage and
Is there a reason why you have so much opioid usage?
So the opioid epidemic is actually very prevalent in indigenous communities. There's a multitude of reasons for why this is the case. A lot of people say it stems from generational trauma stemming back hundreds of years. Also because it's very easy to get their hands on opioids because there's not a lot of regulations in these areas. The government doesn't really look out for the indigenous people often the time. So there are a few programs in place to help these people. We were looking at how other programs can support the current programs in place to create more culturally relevant materials that help support this group.
What interested you guys about this topic?
So we went around a lot of topics, honestly, trying to find something that we were interested in. We were looking at neonatal abstinence syndrome as our main focus because we learned about other kinds of alcohol syndromes, in infants, and we looked at opioid addiction. And then when we were on the California website for cases of NAS, we found out there's a really big discrepancy in a certain group of population. We were wondering, why is this such a big gap, right? So then we looked more into this group, and we found out that this group is actually mostly underrepresented in government and also in a lot of policies that government make about opioid usage. Thank you.
So my name is Paul. Basically, we're part of the radiology department program. So they basically teach us and train us how to take x-rays and kind of get into the healthcare field. What we wanted to do in our approach is we decided, how are we going to be able to save our patients dose because we use radiation to take x-rays, and if there's any way to use the equipment that we already have to save them dose and then to take better pictures. We know that the more accurate or the more clear our picture is, the better chances our patients have of getting an accurate diagnosis. This will just help our doctors to have a better healthcare plan for them. Ultimately, this is just going to help our patients. We want to save them dose and then help them to get more accurate diagnosis to get a better healthcare plan, basically, or care plan. So we did that by looking at a specific phenomenon that happens in our x-ray tubes. Basically what happens is when x-rays are created, the beam that's used with x-rays, they're not all the same energy. So one side is weaker and the other side is stronger. We thought that because it's not the same, basically that might affect how our images will look, right? Then we found different studies that claim that there's an impact on dose to our reproductive systems based on how we position our patients. So if like your reproductive system is over the weaker end compared to the stronger end, that might save you dose.
Suicide prevention.
So what we decided to do was use our lab here at school to basically test out if that was true or not, basically. So we use a phantom, basically bones and cast, and then specific instruments to measure what the radiation was like. When we have your reproductive system or organs positioned over what's called the anode, or the weaker end compared to the stronger end. What we noticed is that there wasn't a huge difference as far as like how much radiation is saved by our patients. But what we did think is we don't really, so any amount of radiation can lead to things like cancer, which is kind of unfortunate. So it doesn't matter if it's a small amount or a huge amount, anything can lead to it. So just because you have a small amount doesn't mean you can never have cancer. And just because you have a big amount doesn't mean you will have. So what we wanted to do was, we thought of, even though it's super small, any amount that we can save a patient in the end can help them, since any radiation can lead to any type of illness.
Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go to. So the next thing we wanted to go over was kind of what is the impact on our images? Like, does it make a difference? So we used kind of the same setup, and then these are the images that we took. So basically this is with the reproductive systems on the weaker end. So this is where the weaker X-ray beams were, and then this is where the weaker X-ray beams. Just kind of flip it. We honestly couldn't tell a huge difference. I don't know if you guys can. And it was the same thing with two different types of X-rays. We found out that it was mostly because of the new technology that we have. So a lot of the programs that our computers have are able to correct a lot of mistakes that were made, right? Or like the difference in density.
So something's wrong with them.
So basically, our conclusion was that because of the advancement of technology, we're able to save a lot of dose already. But for patients who are basically what we call frequent flyers, so patients who have to have a lot of X-rays taken, this is the best thing we can do for them, because any dose or any saving amount of dose is good for them. But that's basically what we wanted to research in our results. Thank you.
Thank you, because they're just so desperate.